The more I was candid with the stuff that I struggle with, the more people really resonated with it because like running is not that glamorous of a sport, and it's hard and it sucks, and we live somewhere like with really really tough weather, so there's like this added element of like,
Yeah.
I could probably fake it if I really wanted to make this aesthetic kind of thing where it was like, hey, I'm glowing and amazing in the Texas summers running and all that stuff. But I just did the opposite. It's like, this is what I look like when I run, and it's bad, and I'm dying, and people, people resonated with it.
Welcome back to Through Their Stride. I'm your host, Sam Sutton, and today we are joined by Hillary Burgess, or Running Up That Hillary on Instagram. Hillary has been running for quite some time now. Since she was a child, she was inspired by her dad, who was a runner himself, and that kind of scratched my itch because that's a very similar story to me and how I got into running with my mom, and just sharing that journey and sharing my running stuff with her. So thought that was pretty interesting. And she became kind of a bit of a social media influencer over the last few years. She kind of fell into it, started posting some personal running stuff on her normal Instagram account, and started tagging brands. And all of a sudden, people wanted to be a part of what she was doing. They appreciated her authenticity. They appreciated how funny she was, how real she was, and honestly, I did too. This is one of the best conversations I've had in a while, just because, yeah, she's just a very authentic person. Hillary Burgess also hosts the Today in Running podcast, and it's about running history, purely about running history. She will dive deep into a historic event. She will talk to runners who set records in the past or set big milestones. And it's a really interesting podcast. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, wherever podcasts are listened to. So check her out, and I'm excited for y'all to hear this conversation. Welcome back to Through Their Stride, and today I'm joined by Hillary Burgess, aka Running Up That Hillary on Instagram and social platforms. So Hillary, welcome, and thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I've been kind of following you loosely for a while now. I didn't realize you were also from Texas, and then
Yeah.
Sarah had mentioned that that Sarah Emmix, who I had before a week ago, had mentioned you, and I was like, oh, I should ask her. So, yeah, so thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, so funny that I live even closer to you than I do to her.
Yeah, it's
We're
kind of
only
awesome.
about probably about an hour away from Fredericksburg.
Yeah, that's so cool. And actually, it's funny. I have a guy who was on my podcast, who's a good friend of mine a few months ago, named Brent Burgess, and I was like, I wonder if there's any relation. I don't know. He's from Kerrville, so
There's not. Yeah.
uh,
There's not.
cool. But yeah, so let me. I wanted to ask a little bit about your running journey. So, how did you get started into running? How did you pick up the sport?
Well, my dad started it long before I was born or even a thought. So my dad started running as a kid. And actually, it kind of started even before that. His uncle was a middle distance runner in the '60s. He ran for University of Maryland. He was one of the top middle distance runners in the Mid Atlantic. And he was like a father figure to my dad when he was growing up. And so he coached my dad into running. And he started with youth track and everything. He actually ran his first marathon at 12.
Whoa.
Um, as you know, the '80s were the Wild West, so that was allowed at that point. But he did a lot of that as a kid. And he ran in high school, and then he took a break. College, met my mom. I was born pretty soon after they finished college. And when I was in elementary school, he was kind of getting back into it and asked if I would like to do a 5K with him. And at the time, I couldn't tell you in any concept of a mile, a kilometer, anything what that was. But I like to run around at recess. I'm 7 years old. It's fun. I like hanging out with my dad.
Yeah.
So I said yes. So we just showed up. We did it. Athlinks actually goes all the way back to the 90s. So I actually have some of those first 5Ks. Not all of them were chip timed or digitized later on, but there are some that went back there.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah. So we just started with that, and it was just something fun that I did with my dad. I wasn't particularly fast, particularly slow, particular like just very average. It was just kind of a thing that was um, fun to do. And my dad, he got back into marathoning. So he had only run that one marathon as a child, and
Oh, wow.
then um, he focused a lot more on track and cross country and everything, and like reasonable distances for kids for the remainder of that. And it wasn't until his early 30s when he got back into marathoning, and so he started training for all that. Around the same time, he also became a track and cross country coach. Um, and so my family, we would watch their meets, we would watch him at marathons. And so when I got to junior high school, it was kind of a no-brainer that I was going to join the track and cross country teams.
Uh,
And I did that. And once again, very much an average runner. I was not star of the team. I was not struggling to finish, like just very much right in the middle. But I liked it. It was something fun. And then it came time to go to high school. There was a high school 3 inches from my house. And I decided instead to go to the school that my dad coached at so I could run on his team. And At the time that seemed like far, but it was like the other high school in town. So it was like 5 miles away. It was not this like cross the city thing. But it was still a big deal because everybody that I had gone to school with since I was 6 years old was all going to this other school. But I decided, I'm like, no, I'm gonna go run for my dad. And it was such a cool experience. So um I got to run cross country on his team, and then track season started, and I was kind of over it. I was like, I don't really want to do this, but I can't not do track. So I picked up pole vaulting at the time.
okay.
And it turns out I was actually a much better pole vaulter than I ever was a runner.
Oh,
Like for the first time in any sport, I was like actually winning things, and
oh, wow.
you know, I went to state. I didn't win state or anything. I was not like a phenom, but like I was far above average for the first time in anything physical ever. And it was just because I kind of didn't feel like running, but I wanted to do track. But then obviously, that's a pretty like there's a pretty short life for pole vaulting.
Yeah, not a big window.
No, no. So that was just a high school thing. And I ended up going to college. I went to the University of Texas. And while I was there, yeah, I took running for PE. I did a lot of just running around campus and on the little indoor track at Gregory Gym and all that kind of stuff. And I decided to run my first half marathon.
Okay.
And so my dad wrote me out a training plan, like literally on a lined sheet of paper. That was my training plan at the
Love that.
time. And that was the San Antonio Rock and Roll Half Marathon in 2012. And I kind of went from there. It was like that was my new distance, and that's what I was gonna focus on. And I did a lot of them. And uh, I had my first child a few years after
Oh,
that. Um, and I moved from Austin to San Antonio after he was born. Kept running a lot of my like postpartum with him was running with the stroller. That was kind of how I got back my identity after having my first child. Just back into running more local races.
okay.
Um, Had another child a few years after that, or 6 years after that. My kids are 6 years apart. And then after my daughter was born, when she was about a year old, that's when I decided I was going to run my first full marathon.
Nice.
And so this is like a really long story of
Yeah.
like, like you hear all these people who they start running and they're like, okay, 6 months later, I'm gonna run a half marathon. And then like 6 months after that, I'm gonna do a full marathon. And me, it was like 13 years of 5Ks and then 10 years of half marathons. And then
Yeah.
then I did my first full marathon.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel
so it
like
was a long journey.
yeah, I do feel like though that is more of like a recent change because when I
Yeah.
first started running, like people would really kind of work up to something and they would stay at something for a long time. Like, when I got into college out of high school, I did a half marathon my senior year of high school. And then I did half marathons all the way up until like 2022. And then that's when I did, or 23, and that's when I did my first full. But then like
Yeah.
feel like the running social media has really made people want to compete,
Yeah.
chase races. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
I did race a lot throughout my 20s, and teens and whatever childhood. Like I did race a lot, but it was just not a quick progression in distance. And but I mean, I like it. I don't think children have any business doing what my dad did. He agrees too. He looks back on it as a horrible decision.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah. Maybe put
babies still.
marathon until you're at least 17, 18 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's a reason why, like, most half marathons, you're supposed to be 12, and most full marathons, you're supposed to be 18.
Yeah,
And there was nothing like that back then. Like probably if he had been 5, that no one would have stopped him from running the marathon.
yeah,
Maybe if he was a female, they might have,
yeah,
but if he was a 5-year-old boy, they probably would have been like, "Yeah, he's fine. Go, let him
yeah.
do it."
Well, cool. And then for your social media, you've been like posting for a while. You're really good at, in my opinion, really good at telling your story. Really good at kind of being humorous as well. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think all of the videos and stuff that you and posts and stuff that you make is really informative and funny. So, what was the mindset of starting that? How did the running up that Hillary brand come about?
So I think it started pretty similar to what a lot of people do. Like, you start posting on your personal page and everybody who follows you is like your aunts and uncles and grandparents and high school friends. And you're like at least for me, I was like, this is probably getting really annoying to these people that I'm posting daily about this run I did in my neighborhood. And like people appreciate the occasional like race photo,
Yeah,
but on a daily basis, I'm like, I'm probably really annoying people. And so I just had this idea. I'm like, I'm gonna do this, and it'll be like a like digital like running journal.
yeah,
And I'll have some of the women that I run with in my run club will follow me, and like I might like meet some people within the San Antonio running community that might follow me. I thought this would be like 50 or 100 people. um and so I made this, and it started very much like that. The first time I posted anything outside of just like, here's me on a run, was our local Fleet Feet was doing a contest for worst race photo.
oh,
And I knew I was going to win this because my first marathon, I had COVID. I did not know I had COVID.
no,
I tested positive for COVID the night of the marathon. But during the race, I was so like the first half of it, I was okay. And it was also raining. So I also thought like it was the longest I'd ever run. It was cold and rainy. And so I was like, I guess this is what you feel like. But I had never in my life, including like active labor with my children, I had never been in worse physical shape than the last 10K of this marathon.
yeah.
And there's footage of me, and I've posted it a few times since, but there's footage of me finishing, and I'm like completely like diagonal.
Oh no.
If I was like hunched over anymore, I would have been on all fours. And my like official finish line photo is this horrible, like I look like a creature, like some sort of like horror movie climbing on the ceiling kind of. And so I was just and the prize was $100 to Fleet Feet. And at the time, no one had ever given me anything free running related in my life.
Yeah.
Like the idea of getting a free pair of shoes was just this like novelty, like no way, like amazing, uh like the concept of an influencer or an ambassadorship or anything did not even occur to me. I was like, wow, like I can buy a pair of shoes and I won't have to pay for it if I can win this. So I enter this contest. And for the first time, all these people like end up finding it and I get all these new followers and
Algorithm works its magic.
yeah, and I'm like, "Huh, you know what? If people like pictures of me looking like crap, I can deliver on this." I have years of this. I have decades of this.
Yeah.
And so I just kinda leaned into it, and I made a video that included, like, the actual video footage from that race.
Oh,
That
wow.
was my first thing that went viral. Um and it was just kind of exponential growth. And I started, obviously, nobody gave me anything free at the time, but I was already, I had running shoes, I had running things, so I started tagging brands like, and stuff started small as like, nobody paid me for anything, but I got some like gifted collaborations, which I just thought was like the most amazing thing in the entire world. Um, and that stuff kind of took off. And the more I was candid with the stuff that I struggle with, the more people really resonated with it, because like running is not that glamorous of a sport, and it's hard and it sucks, and we live somewhere like with really really tough weather, so there's like this added element of like,
Yeah.
I could probably fake it if I really wanted to make this aesthetic kind of thing where it was like, "Hey, I'm glowing and amazing in the Texas summers running and all that stuff." But I just did the opposite. It's like, this is what I look like when I run, and it's bad, and I'm dying, and people, people resonated with it, and it just kind of grew.
Yeah, the humidity in Texas is not glamorous at all.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Well, that's cool, and I think that's something that like people often appreciate more than the aesthetically pleasing. Like, here's me on a run. Like after 20 miles, I'm not
Yeah,
sweaty at all. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
think that's
yeah,
yeah. I and that's how people. That's why people want to follow people like you because it's like,
yeah,
oh, this person's like me, and
yeah.
I
We're
think
all suffering.
yeah. And then you had on your podcast, I think Jeff Galloway. I just saw
I
an
did, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
and he was saying that like this sport is for everybody. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And
mhm.
it's for you know the fast runners, but it's not a sport of like one team. Like it's not a team. You're your own team. You're your own person. So you should be able to do it on your own pace, and I think that's amazing.
And that's what I love about it, and I think that's why I was a pole vaulter for
Yeah.
high school, and I've been a runner since I was 7.
Mhm.
Like it is one of those things that you can do forever, and you can make a career out of it. You might be amazing and go set a world record, win an Olympic gold medal, whatever, like, and that's awesome, but at the same time, you can be like me and you run that first marathon just to get to the finish line, and then you run the second marathon to get a little bit faster, and the benchmark is your own.
Yeah.
um, and and it's something really unique in that, and really endurance sports are kind of the only thing that is really like that.
Yeah.
And where you go out to a road race, and that's something that I love, is that there's everybody from like little kids. I mean, even infants and strollers. I mean, like people like getting newborns involved in this, all the way up to people who are 80 or 90 years old and
Yeah.
walking a 5K. Like, and that's what I love about it, is it's everybody, and the person who crosses first and the person who crosses last and every single person in between, and there's a place for everybody, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, I can go on and on and on about that on how much I love it.
I had a coworker that I was talking to a couple of days ago, and she's getting her daughter into track and field. She's like
Oh, cool.
11 years old, trying
Yeah.
to figure out what she wants to do. And she was like, "Oh, I knew you ran, so like, I know how much you love it, so I'm trying to get her in it. And I was like, yeah, that's really cool. And then like somewhere along the way, she was like, sometimes she runs with me, but I'm not a runner. Like I just do 20 minutes every couple of days. Like I'm not a runner. And I was like, no, you're a runner. I
Yeah,
was
I mean,
like,
it's not the running.
you go
Yeah,
outside and you run your streets for
yeah,
20 minutes. That makes you a runner. I was like, this
yeah.
sport is inclusive. I want people to know that, you know? So
Yeah. And that's also the kind of message that, her 11-year-old should be hearing as well.
yeah.
And what's so great and for youth sports as well, like I don't know how schools are these days. My kids are my oldest is in 5th grade, so we're not to middle school sports or anything. But when I was in school, the only no cut sport in high school was cross country and track.
Yep.
And that's what makes it so awesome. And I always tell the story. I met my best friend in track. She was the single worst pole vaulter of all time. And she is to this day my best friend, and we talk daily, and we've been best friends for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And we met because she was the new girl at school and was able to go out for that sport because it was a no cut sport.
Hmm.
And I mean, we laugh about like how bad she was, because she was like um so bad at it, but it really is for everybody, and it gives everybody that opportunity. And yeah, and it's just fun. It's something you try out different events. You see, like I never could have known that I was going to be a good pole vaulter. Like that's not something that you just like do growing up the way you do like playing tag and stuff. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
I went to in eighth grade. I There was a pole vaulting camp, like as part of like my school,
yeah,
and I was like, maybe that could be something cool. And I like got there and I watched like the first three kids do it, and I'm like, this isn't for me. That's scary.
yeah.
I'm walking away, and I stuck with running. Yes, that's cool. So, with your running, so since that first marathon, where was that first marathon that you did?
That was here in San Antonio. So it
Okay,
was actually 10 years after my first half marathon, the exact same race, but the full marathon.
nice.
So rock and roll San Antonio. I ended up doing 10 times between the half and the full. And then now it's just the San Antonio marathon and half. And so I did the inaugural one last year.
Oh, cool.
Sure I'll do it this year. And so that's like, it's my hometown race. It was nice for it to be my first half, my first full, and then something that I was able to do almost every year.
Yeah.
um like I think there's something fun about, like, when people's first marathons are these big like flashy ones. I think it's cool and it's fun. They go run New York City and stuff, but it's also like so much less scary
Yeah.
running your first um race of any distance so close to home on streets that and then knowing in the back of your mind, it's like, if everything goes horribly wrong, I can go home.
I can go.
Like,
Yes.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I can Uber 15 minutes to my house, and it's all okay. That was the same for my first ultra marathon. Like I did a local 50K last March, and it's just at the park. It's just loops. It's 3 11-mile loops of
Oh,
McAllister Park here in San Antonio. And I was like, okay, this is put on by my run club. So, all of them know me. They can like evacuate me and, and whatever at any point. And then also like I can call my husband or my parents or something at any point, and I can just quietly go home. Like it's not a whole thing. So I am very happy. I did finish all of those races, but it's, I guess, like less intimidating, less of a like pressure on yourself to have it be like a hometown kind of thing. And then also it's cool because my parents, my husband, my kids, I think my brother was there, like so having everybody be able to come to those. So it's also cool. Might not be the most glamorous, exciting race in the world, but
yeah.
I'm a big proponent of doing your hometown race first.
Yeah. My first half marathon was basically my hometown. It was the Cowtown Marathon in Fort Worth,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Cowtown Half, and
Yeah.
uh, did that thinking like 2 hours and 10 or something like that for the first one, and then
Yeah.
did it again the year after having like a really bad stomach bug, and then went down from two
Mhm.
like 218. But then in
Yeah.
2015, I did it again and did 159. So I was like,
Yeah.
but yeah, always doing your hometown races is something that like you said, you're like, I can go home at the end of the day. And like,
Yeah.
whatever happens, I'm safe. Like
Yeah.
I didn't like same with my first marathon, I did Austin first. And so
Yeah.
it's just like a stone's throw from Fredericksburg.
Yeah, and I've done Austin. I've done Austin 7 times, so that's the only race that I've done, um, almost as much as San Antonio. So I've done San Antonio 11 and Austin 7 times.
Nice.
So that's another I love that. I love that race too.
Yeah, I haven't done San Antonio yet. I'd love to.
I'm gonna do that too in December.
My cousin-in-law has done it, and she broke 4 hours for the first time there.
Oh,
And
how cool.
she did the rock and roll, so I know
Yeah,
the
it's I mean, the course wasn't even the same for rock and roll.
yeah.
It changed in the 10 years that I did it, it was probably a different course like 6 times,
Oh wow.
like, it was not yeah, it was not a consistent thing. So, pretty much, like, the first year of it being the San Antonio Marathon, like, it literally felt not even slightly different because we started and ended downtown, and that was the only consistency with any of them.
Yeah,
So, it's like yeah.
kind of funny. I didn't know it changed every year.
It's fun. I will complain about my city all the time, but defend it to the death to to anybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, I love San Antonio, so it's fun to go. But so for you for your brand, I mean, obviously you got your first like free thing with the fleet
Yeah.
with Fleet, and then but now you're partnered with Brooks, and it seems like you've got a lot more partners as well. So how did that
Yeah.
success kind of start to snowball?
Um, it started with I guess stuff that I was already using. Like I started tagging and then, I would get discount codes. And then like one of the early ones, one of the early partnerships was the runner box subscription. So I was I've been a subscriber for years.
Hmm.
And so I would tag them every time I would get a box, and they didn't even have like an ambassador program or anything like that, but I tagged them so often, and then I would tag the brands that they would put in the box and all this, and those brands, a lot of them would send me stuff like to try out like other flavors or whatever, but the runner box, they were like, hey, like, we want to start sending you these. I'm like, awesome. And then they rebranded to Fuel Goods, and it became like a much more like official kind of thing. They still send me the subscription. They're a supporter of my podcast. I finally got to actually meet them in person,
Yeah.
in at every woman's marathon. Like, so that one was just kind of like a like organic, like, stuff that I used already. A lot of stuff has been um, similar to that. Brooks, I actually applied for, and it's kind of crazy because so I met people just through running Instagram who because I made my account in the beginning of 2023,
Okay.
and so throughout that year, um, people who were on the Brooks at the time as the Run Happy team, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh, that seems really cool. And at the time, I didn't own a single thing from Brooks. I owned one single pair of running shoes, and they were Asics.
Oh,
And I had race T-shirts from Brooks,
yeah.
and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm gonna apply for this. And I was just like honest in my application that I was like, I have almost no running shoes. Um, but y'all seem like a really great brand. I like the inclusivity. I really like the like everything that the brand stands for,
Yeah.
even though I don't currently do all this. And I just put all that out there. I was like, they're not gonna let me in, but like I'm just gonna apply anyways. And I got in, and it was awesome. And And it's crazy because you expect they send you these boxes of stuff and it's cool and like all this stuff, but I didn't expect like the friendships that I would get from it and that kind of stuff that has come from it.
Yeah.
And that's been like 9 million times cooler than any pair of free shoes, which is cool, but like it really is like such a good community.
Yeah.
Um and then doing races with them is cool, doing our like our retreats and trips and stuff, all of that is really cool. um I don't even remember how I like some of the brands, like it's all been just pretty organic except for that one I specifically applied for. Most of the other stuff has been either something I already used and then I would just tag them for a while,
Yeah.
or sometimes like I would have a company reach out to me and I'm like, oh, this sounds fun, let's try it out.
Hmm.
So stuff like that. um but yeah,
Yeah.
just like a little bit at a time.
Yeah. I think it's great because I think a lot of people who like are doing the running and like want to do a little bit of the influencing, they're like, I don't know like how to get started. You know what I mean? I see
Yeah.
all these influencers and they're, they have all these brands and I'm like here with my 1,000 followers and it's like, but it's just the consistent like tagging the brands,
And I
reaching
think
out
it's
to
it's
them.
it's also about just the authenticity of it. Like the brands that I would tag and stuff. Like I would do and I actually have the runner box next to me just because I did an episode of my podcast earlier. So like I would get stuff like this and I would just do like, hey, here's this. I'm going to tag this brand. Here's me, like I'm trying it.
Yeah.
This flavor is my favorite. This flavor actually sucks. Like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Very like honest. And then a lot of those where I was like, I actually really don't like this. The brand would write me and like be like, hey, can we send you some other flavors to try?
Yeah.
And like stuff like that. It not just going at it like, hey, who can send me something free? Who can send me to a race? Who can do whatever? Like what can y'all do for me? But
Yeah.
just, if you're a runner, you're going to be a consumer of something at some point.
Yeah.
And some of it you might enjoy, so just write about it and tag about it, and
Yeah.
that should never be the overarching whatever. Like it drives me crazy when every single thing somebody posts is a sales pitch. Like but if there's something that you genuinely enjoy and it works for you and whatever, like I think it's cool to hear about that too.
Yeah. I think when you're sharing your story on social media and showing everything, like one of the part of your story is sharing what you're using.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
I like this. If you're looking for gels, you might too. I don't have
Yeah.
a partnership. It's just me saying like, I like
Yeah.
this. You know what I mean? And then they're like, someone's like, ooh, that's cool. But that authenticity is what brands and what people like crave. I was thinking a
Yeah.
world like today's world where a lot of stuff isn't authentic. That's
Yeah. Oh
that
yeah.
yeah. Staying true to yourself is what wins people over.
For sure. And then like having the long-term relationships with brands, like that's really cool. I do a lot with them. I do a lot with my race tats, so I try to wear their tattoos every time I race. I think they're a really cool brand, really awesome people that own the brand, and they've been a supporter of my podcast since day one. And so that kind of thing also, just a long-term thing. Like I like the products, but I also like the people behind them,
Yeah.
which makes me want to talk about it more. And so
Yeah.
it's ultimately it's people behind them, and it's people who are looking at stuff, and
Yeah.
it's all part of part of the just overall being candid, being honest, being
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. And I'll go into your podcast. I hadn't asked about it yet, but you host the Today in Running History podcast. And
Yes.
I love that podcast because, like, I just love learning about the history and, like, the bygone era of running. So, can you talk to me a little bit about how that started and how you got that idea?
Yeah. So it actually started. I guess I don't know. A few years ago, my dad gave me this book. It's called The First Ladies of Running. It's by Amby Burfoot, and then Shalane Flanagan did the epilogue or the foreword or whatever it was. And it was the first time that I had ever actually even thought about any of this stuff. Um, like, growing up, as I mean, I knew who Shalane Flanagan was because she was one of the best
Yeah.
distance runners when I was getting into distance running. But the people of the 60s, 70s, 80s, I never even thought about it. It didn't even occur to me. I didn't start paying attention to any of that stuff until the early to mid 2000s. And so it just kind of like opened my eyes to all of this, and I started getting kind of an interest in it. And I I started my account, and at some point, I think the first time I was on a podcast was after I ran the Boston Marathon, for charity. And so that was the first time I was on a podcast. The first time it even occurred to me that there were running podcasts
Yeah.
or anything like that. So the wheels are turning on one side where it's like running history exists. The wheels are turning on another side where it's like running podcasts exist.
Yeah.
And then just kind of over a couple years, I would occasionally post something. I would post videos, like throwback videos about moments in running history, like the first woman to run a mile in under 5 minutes, or the 1968 Billy Mills 10,000 meter gold at the Olympics. And they were set like, and those reels did really well. So I'm like, people are interested in that. I'm interested in that. I like to talk about running.
Yeah.
So this like idea just kind of like came together as like, I'm gonna do. And then during the pandemic, and this is before I even started this, there was this podcast that I listened to during the pandemic, called Today in True Crime,
Mm-hmm.
where it would be like something about like, on this day this serial killer was arrested or whatever, and then they would tell the story of it. So like the
I
concept of
listen to that
how the
podcast.
did you
I love
yeah,
that
yeah.
podcast.
So it was like, I was like, what if I do like, so it's just all these different gears and they all just kind of came together. I'm like, I'm gonna model it on that so that the episodes are anchored by whatever date they come out. And then, I have this interest in it. It seems like other people find this interesting. And at first I didn't even think about even interviewing anybody because I'm like, who the hell wants to be on my podcast? And I started putting together this calendar of like what happened when and what would be interesting and whatever. And I was like, maybe I'll just see if I can find some of these people. And so my first couple episodes, I managed to hunt down my first episode was about Bill Bowerman,
Uh-huh.
and I had met his son who's in his like mid 80s now. I had met his son at a track meet in Eugene,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, I wonder if I can track him down and get him on my podcast. And I found an article that he had been quoted in. I reached out to the journalist. I'm like, hey, can you pass along my contact information? I would like to talk to him. He called me 30 seconds later. We got it scheduled. He came on there. I got Calvin Smith. I found it, the first 100 meters under 10 seconds. And he had coached at the University of Alabama like 25 years ago. And so I emailed their head track coach. I'm like, hey, I know he hasn't coached there in a while, but if any of y'all have, if you have his contact information, can you pass mine along? And then I get a text from him like an hour later, like, hey, it's Calvin Smith. Like, I heard you went like
That's so
it,
cool.
yeah, like I was blown away that any of these people wanted to come on this podcast that hadn't even like launched.
Yeah.
Ingrid Christensen, who is one of the top female marathoners in the 1980s. She has a like ingridchristensen.com. And so I just did like the chat, like the submit a whatever, contact me thing. I'm like, hey, I want to come on my podcast. She's like, yeah, got her on there. Like all of this stuff where it was I might as well just ask. And I think because they're really, occasionally there'll be stories told, and a lot of the times they're the same stories that
Yeah.
are told. Like, Catherine Switzer, that story's told a lot, and Joan Benoit Samuelson at the '84 Olympics. Like, there's ones that stand out and are told a lot, and they're great stories. But there's a lot of other stories that are not told as often, and they were a huge deal when they came out. And so I found that people like to talk about them, and people have been so receptive to coming on the show. Like, it's been great. Like, there's it's been so awesome. I don't even know who the best one that I've had. I was pretty excited to have Jeff on. I was pretty excited to have Hal Higdon on.
Wow, you had Hal
He's
Higdon on? I didn't see
I
that. I
did,
have
yeah,
to listen
yeah.
to that.
Yeah, I had Ambi on, which was cool because I told him, like, that his book was one of the things that kind of got me interested in the subject at all, and that was cool to tell him. I've had Dina on. I've had Dick Beardsley and Bill Rogers. I mean, so many of these
Yeah.
awesome athletes. And and I have more to come that are really cool. I have two that are coming out the next 2 days.
Yeah.
That I'm super excited about. And it's just, I don't know. It's been a really cool thing, and it's kind of similar to the way the Instagram worked. Like, I did not have these huge expectations. It was more like, like, this is fun. I enjoy it. I'm gonna just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Um,
And be curious
and
about
yeah, and then the reception's been great. I mean, I'm not making millions of dollars on this. I'm not, but I mean, there's some good listenership. And I've had some great um some great response as far as people coming on and being willing to tell their story, and
it. Yeah.
that's been awesome.
I think that's such an important, like, telling the story of running in all of its history is so important, especially as we move like further away from these stories and we start, the running influencing takes off. And I think a lot of people see a lot of today's runners, and they don't see like the foundation that was laid by
Yeah.
the runners, and it's we can't lose sight of that. I think that's
Yeah. And it's easy to get jaded or take it for granted that, that women take up 50% of the sport now. And 50 years ago, it was like, I just had Jacqueline Hansen on, and she won the Honolulu Marathon exactly 50 years ago.
yeah,
And the field size was tiny.
yeah,
Like, this was past the point when women weren't allowed to join, but there were still so many other barriers. I mean, like, sports bras weren't invented. Like, like, even just the smallest things, like the sport didn't cater to women. And then, only 5 years prior, or 10 years, whatever, prior to that, women weren't even allowed to enter marathons.
yeah,
It took until the '80s to get an Olympic marathon. And
yeah. I think that yeah, like you said, you can't take it for granted. I mean, like, women's history in the sport is so important, and where we came from, where y'all came. I shouldn't say we, where y'all
yeah,
came from today.
us
Like,
as humans, it just in general,
yeah,
just it, you go to a run club and you'll never think twice of it being 50% women. Like that doesn't that isn't like even a thought. Whereas, and I talk to these guys from the 60s and 70s, and they talk about like how they were all for women and everything, but it was the generation before them that was against it. And so it just takes generations
Yeah.
to get to where it's like allowed and then acceptable and then the norm, and like just little by little.
Yeah.
And so just looking back to where it came from, and these women who were in a field size of 15,
Hmm.
and whereas now it's thousands and tens of thousands, and all that. And it's cool to not just tell the stories, but to hear it from them. And because it really was not that long ago, talking to somebody in their 70s, like that's really like grand scheme of everything, not that long ago.
Pretty recent. Yeah. Um, and then I also want to go back to you and your story about your dad. Uh,
Yeah.
So it's really cool. You have a very similar story in how you got into running as I do. My mom was a huge marathoner, big influence in my life, and when it came to running. And when I was 6 years old, I faked sick from school, and she was like, "Well, I have to go run this 5K that I'm doing." And I was like, "Ooh, I want to come." And she was like, "You're not sick, but you're coming with me." But and from then on, though, like after doing that 5K, we ran all the time growing when I was growing
Yeah.
up. And are you still able to run with your dad? And is that still kind of a bonding experience for y'all?
So he doesn't run a ton these days. Like track and cross country, it like takes up a lot of time.
Yeah.
So he doesn't do a ton of stuff, but he comes to as many of my races as he can. I did a lot of coverage for mile split during this last cross country season, so I was able to be at a lot of his meets,
Oh,
and see him out on the course with his runners. So and then during track meets, like pro meets, or major marathons, things like that, we're always texting each other about like, hey, did you see the the indoor record just fell for that,
yep.
like things like that. So it's very much still a bonding thing. We don't really run together very much. I'm hoping he will be able to retire before too long.
Yeah.
um he's a teacher and coach, so it takes a while, but he'll be 58 next month, so we have, we have a bit before he'll be retiring, but
Yeah.
eventually would like to get back to that. But as of right now, he's there to support me. He was in New York City to watch that one. He came out to Scottsdale. I did every woman's marathon this last fall. And his mom was out there too, because she lives out in Scottsdale. So she was able to be there too. So it's very much still something we bond over, just not as much like running together.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then, as a runner and as like a family of runners, have you been able to pass the sport on to your kids? Is that something that they enjoy?
So a little bit. So my son, my run group has a kids training program, and so when he was 7, we signed him up to do that. He did not actually enjoy it all that much. And but I told him, I'm like, look, like you committed to this. We're gonna do the training, we're gonna do the race. We'll walk when we need to. I will be there for you, but you're gonna do it.
Yep.
And then once you get past that finish line, if you don't want to run again, then you don't have to. And we did that, and he has not wanted to. And so that's where we're at. And then my daughter, she'll be 5 next month. There's a 1K fun run coming up, that we just saw at our community center yesterday. They had a flyer of it up, and so I think she's going to do that one. They love coming to my races, cheering me on, all that stuff, being part of it. And so I think he'll probably do some more. And then his school has like a fun run coming up, and so
Nice.
I'll be volunteering for that. So it has not been love at first sight for him, but I don't think it's a lost cause. And then she's in preschool, so she's just now getting into all of that, and she's excited. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that they'll they'll have a good relationship with it. And I think that the biggest thing is, make it fun and not force it. And running will always be there if they want to do it. I'll still be doing it. Um, knock on wood or whatever, uh, but even if I'm not, the sport will be there. And the last thing I want to do is make them hate it by forcing them to do it. So,
Yeah. Well, I think
but
yeah,
mhm,
I think just with running though, but also like in the life that you're leading, like being curious and like, working toward things that you love, like with your influencing, with your podcasting, that's a role model example of itself to those kids. I mean, I think you're instilling a lot of like, if you're just curious about something and you keep scratching that curiosity itch, you'll find something really amazing. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
They're
that
active kids. They like doing all that stuff, and so I think it might end up being running, it might be something else, but they'll have the opportunity, and the sport will be there, and they will be around the sport whether they like it or not, so.
yeah, that's awesome. And then for you for running, so do you have anything that you're training for right now? I heard that you just finished a 6 mile run. So are you in training?
Yeah, so I am currently training for the London Marathon.
Okay.
Um, so that'll be in April. I don't have a time goal or anything. Probably something around 4.5 hours. I just want to go out and feel good
Yeah.
and not be on my feet for 6 hours and not feel like crap. So that's kind of my biggest thing. I want to have fun. I want to be fit enough to enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Well, and enjoy London. Like,
Yeah.
have you ever been to London?
I have not, no, and my mom's coming, my husband, my kids,
Oh,
like, we're all going. Unfortunately, it's track season, so my dad can't come, um, yeah, it'll be a first time the kids are out of the country. It'll be really cool. So, I don't intend on taking it super, super fast, but I also don't wanna be on my feet for for longer than I need to.
yeah.
So I'm training well just to make it so that it's an enjoyable experience
Yeah.
that, I don't I don't feel like crap and I can have fun.
Yeah. Awesome. And that's so fun. And like you said, have kids the first time being out of the country. So like you want to make it a good like vacation experience for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Do you have anything fun planned for them?
We have a whole itinerary of all sorts of stuff. I need to look at it, honestly. Like, my mom has done most of it. Like, we have lodging, we have tickets. Other than that, I'm not a big planner. I am like the most like type B, like show up and just like I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
If you can't tell
Yeah.
by my approach to my podcast and my
But it works.
social media and everything, I'm just like I'll figure it out. I'll get there and I'll do it.
Yeah.
Um, we do have plans. I don't know what they are. I'm sure we'll I don't know. It'll be fun. We'll we'll see London. It'll
Great.
be great. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, Hillary, I won't take a whole lot more of your time, but I really do appreciate you coming on. I wanted to ask three final questions before I let
All
you go. So, my first question is, if you could give somebody a reason to run today, what would it be?
right. Ooh. I guess your legs work, your lungs work, and the weather won't kill you.
Weather won't kill you, even if it is.
Yeah. I don't run in active lightning or hail,
Sure.
like when it legitimately might. Um But other than that, like, there's no bad running weather unless it's legitimately dangerous.
Yeah.
I run when it's 100 degrees, and I run when it's 20 degrees, and, I run when it's raining and when it's windy and when it's high pollen count, like, just all of it, like, so the weather won't kill you, and your legs and your lungs work.
And then, what is a dream guest that you would love to have on your podcast?
That is so hard to say because 'cause I've had most of them.
Most of them.
Oh goodness. Like, all of my top, like, running heroes I have had on my podcast. Gosh. Oh, that is so hard. Maybe wow, I have totally froze up because 'cause I'm trying to think of somebody who I haven't had. Um, I mean, there's runners of today that I really like that might be cool to have. I'm a huge Yard Nagoose fan.
Oh yeah,
Uh, I mean, he's like significantly younger than I am, so like as far as running history goes, like it's not doesn't fit as well, but I would love like I think he is such a like talented obviously, but also like such a cool guy. So probably Yard Nagoose.
yeah,
I don't know how I would spin that portion, but just because of the topic of the podcast.
yeah,
As far as people that I've never actually contacted or anything, I think he'd be a really cool one.
yeah. That'd be great. Have you had Kira D'Amato on yet?
I haven't. I think she'd be a fun one for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. She's got
Yeah,
a. I mean, obviously, if you know running, you know her story, but she's got a neat
yeah.
story.
She does have a great story, and there's some good records and stuff that would be good tie-ins date wise. That I haven't reached out to her, but yeah, she would be a good one to have on there.
Kira, you're probably not listening to this, but if you are, so you should reach out to her. She wants you and Yara Nagus as well. Yara
Yeah,
Nagus, both of y'all reach out to Hillary. Um,
yeah, and Yard and I are both. Well, he is the father of a tortoise. I am the grandmother of a tortoise. So, like,
yeah,
we can we can bond over that.
there you go. And then my last question is, what is your outside of the San Antonio Marathon and the Austin Marathon? What is your favorite race in Texas?
Ooh, that is so hard. I would love to say Houston,
Mhm.
but I've never run it. So the the 2 times I was supposed to run it, there was, 2025 when I ended up with pneumonia, and I went out to Houston Marathon weekend, and I was dying, and I ended up going home the night before the race and ended up in the ER, and it was like a whole thing. And then this last year, I forgot to register, and
Oh,
it was booked. I went out there once again, like just to do some of the pre-race stuff with friends, but I've heard nothing but great things. And then obviously, like Sarah has said amazing things. There's a whole group of people here in San Antonio that do it every single year. And so, as far as ones in Texas that I want to do, that one.
yeah.
I did my consolation prize for myself for not doing Houston was the Bandera 50K,
Oh, yeah.
which was the same day as it, and that was it was tough. It was a lot of elevation gain. I mean, there were parts like climbing, like
Yeah.
literally like using your hands like rocks and stuff. But it was so beautiful, and I love the hill country.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say that one.
That was one that Molly Seidel set the record at,
She
right?
did, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
was, and I was only a few hours behind.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good race. I've got a friend here in Fredericksburg who's run that race several times, and she
Yeah,
she raves about it. So I'd love to go out. I'm not a
it's
trail runner.
beautiful.
Yeah, I've never done much trail running, but I would. That's one that I would take on.
I love trail running. I don't put a ton of effort into it just because, where I'm at with my running, like, um, age-wise and everything, like, if I'm gonna get faster, now is probably the time to focus on it.
Yeah,
So I just do trail running just, like, for fun. I don't, I'll just do a couple a year just because it seems like a fun thing to do, and
yeah.
I'll go out and I'll finish it and everything, but there's a lot more on the trails that I would like to do. And Bandera, like, it was painful. It was tough. Um, luckily, it was, like, 40 degrees the entire time, so, like, weather-wise, it could not have been better. But just like it was a tough race. But the views were beautiful. The race support was great. So I would say that one aside from Austin and San Antonio, I'd say Bandera.
Yeah, nice. The only trail run I've ever done is actually the Fort Bend in no, not Fort Bend, Fort Davis.
Oh,
I did 10K in Fort Davis, and it was a loop, and you would go like literally up one of. I mean, it's not a big mountain; it's like more of a hill, but it was pretty steep, and you had to go up it like
yeah,
3 times for the
yeah,
entire. And I think I did it in like an hour and 23 minutes, and I was like,
yeah.
I'm
I
dead.
mean, time it like just goes out the window
It
with
does.
trail running because it all depends on the course.
Yeah, we were.
Like like Molly set the record by a ton. She beat all of the men as well, and it was still over an 8-minute mile. Like,
Yeah,
and she's an Olympic medalist who can run a sub 5-minute mile with her eyes closed, and so it's just a totally different concept
for
as
sure.
far as what time even means.
Yeah, my mom ran the half that day, and she we got me and my brother got done with our 10Ks, and we were like sitting in the car and we were waiting, and I was like, "Is mom okay? It's been almost 3 hours." And
Yeah,
like he was like, "I think so." He was like, "I haven't heard
yeah,
anything." And then we
yeah,
started kind of like looking out at the course, and like finally I saw her come around, and I was like, "Okay, she's
yeah,
okay."
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's a different beast. It's
it's
it's it's
terrible.
fun though, and we have such like hill country is just such a beautiful area that a lot of people, if they're not local, don't know about, don't get to enjoy, and so they're usually smaller races, which
Yes,
is also cool.
for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Hillary, thank you so much for coming on. So real quick, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you? There's running up that hill. Is there anywhere else?
I'm
Right.
yep, just Instagram,
Yeah.
just the Instagram. It's running up that Hillary with underscores after each word, and then my podcast Today in Running History is on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, some other I think iHeartRadio. I don't know. All of the if you listen to a podcast somewhere, it's probably there.
Yeah.
You just search Today in Running History. Other than that, I'm talkless. So I never made it to the TikTok. I don't do anything on YouTube besides the podcast.
Yeah.
Just those two mostly. Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you
Or
so
you can show up to one of the races that I'm going to be at, which I post about a lot because I love meeting people in person too. So that's always a good thing. If you know I'm going to be running a race, like just show up and be like,
much.
hey, like
Yeah. If
just
you got a San Antonio one coming up, I'll definitely
yeah,
check it out.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure I will. I'm not registered for anything, but like local races, I typically sign up for them. I'll probably end up doing the Alamo
Oh,
13.1 next weekend.
yeah.
Um,
I'm still recovering from Austin, so maybe not that one, but maybe sometime soon. Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank
cool.
you so much again. Thank you for being a part of running history and telling the stories that need to be told.
Awesome. Thank you.
And that was my conversation with Hillary Burgess. Hillary, thanks again for coming on to the show today. And for those of you more interested in learning more about Hillary, you can find her at running underscore up underscore that underscore Hillary at Instagram or at Today in Running podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, all the podcast platforms. So thank you guys so much for listening. And if you like this podcast, share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcasts and comment, like. I love the engagement. So thank you all so much, and I'll see you in the next one.